Helps if I take it off mute.
There you go.
Good deal. I think we have everybody. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And this is going to be the presentation of Sage 100 for Central West Virginia Aging Services. And with us, we have Johnnie Woodward. He's my field sales engineer for the Sage 100 product. Has a wealth of knowledge in the product, both as an end user and as an engineer for Sage over 25 years. And I also have James Gibson, the president of PMO Solutions. And I contract with him quite a bit for these implementations of 100. Again, he has 25 plus years of experience with the Sage 100 product. And then Anita, if you could kind of give us some intros of yourself and your role, and the person who's going with you today too.
Yes, Anita King. I'm the CFO of Central West Virginia Aging Services. We are a nonprofit in West Virginia providing in-home care to elderly and disabled individuals. And I also have Katie Collins here with me. She's the assistant CFO. And we are really interested in learning about Sage 100, particularly the payroll portion of the software.
Okay. And in our brief discussion with Anita, they have 7 locations, and the primary reason they're looking at 100, again, like you mentioned, because of payroll. They're using DAC Easy for payroll currently, and DAC Easy is going to be retired. So they need a solution for the payroll piece. As far as Sage 50, they're using that for accounts payable and GL entries. They do have a separate system for AR transactions in their medical billings, and that will remain the same. The payroll piece, they have, at any point in time, upwards of between 700 and 800 employees. Does that sound about right, Anita?
Yeah, that's right.
For payroll? Okay. Again, 7 locations, and then I think you mentioned that you have many departments, like around 30, I think you had mentioned different departments set up as far as your GL structure.
Right. We need to be able to track. We have various different programs at each of the 7 locations. There's the Medicaid waiver program, VA programs. Several different programs at each location, and we need to be able to track all of that separately.
Okay. Very good. All right, what I'll do now, I did put together a brief agenda as we go through. John usually starts out with an overview of 100, just to give you an idea what it looks like and how to get around it, then touch on some visual process flows, and then custom office, and then go right into an overview of the GL and what different departments may look like, and then AP, and then we'll finish up with payroll and how that can be set up along with reporting. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
And John, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, let me share the screen.
And Anita, I'm recording this session for you as well. So when we get done, I'll send you the recording of it. So if you need to review it, you can as much as you need to.
All right, thank you.
Oh, let me do something here. Let me start my server.
Hey, while Johnny's getting set up, hello, Johnny, by the way.
Hello.
Anita, this is James. And as you were speaking, you said you have the need to be able to track several different programs at each location separately. Can you just expand on that just a tad bit? What types of programs and what types of tracking do you need to be able to do?
Well, right now we have, we're using DAC Easy, and we have several different department numbers set up in DAC Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we track those things. But, we have under each location, there's several locations, but then under each location, we have programs such as the Veterans Administration program, the Medicaid waiver program, case management, personal care. So, under each location, we have, 6 or 7 different programs that we have to track. So we know, you know, where the money is coming in from, you know, for example, like I'm in our Buchanan office, we need to be able to see how much is coming in and how much expenses are for each of those programs in Buchanan, but we also need to know how much the income and expenses are for each of those programs in all of our other offices too. So when you break it down, I mean, we have 30-some departments for our hourly employees, and then we also have several departments for our salary employees as well.
Okay. Okay. So when you're speaking of programs, you're kind of associating that with departments/locations.
Well, I mean, it's based on like what government entity or, you know, like where the revenue comes from.
Okay.
You know, we bill the VA administration, but we have different VA offices that we bill. So, and then we have private pay clients that pay for their care out of pocket. So it's kind of broken, the programs are kind of broken down into where the revenue comes from.
Got it. Okay, understood. Okay, good enough.
So, and so our employees' hours have to be attributed to each of those departments.
Yep. Okay. No, I'm good. That sheds a lot more light. So I'm good. Thank you for that detail.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to confirm. Can you see? I want to confirm. I'm sharing my screen. You should see Information Center in a blue box, little top center.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, first thing I want to point out is all these modules. You won't see all those modules. I have everything installed. So essentially, you would see the modules that you buy only. I have distribution and manufacturing. Of course, you won't need those modules. So you wouldn't see, anything that you didn't buy. Another thing I'll point out is security is actually going to play a role in that too. A user will only see what their security profile allows them to access. So that would, for example, AP, if I didn't have access to AP, I wouldn't see it. Or maybe there's certain things, maybe I don't do vendor maintenance, but I do invoice data entry. I would only see what I've been allowed to access based on my security profile. So security will access a filter for what a user sees. Any questions there?
No, that sounds good.
Yeah. Now, another thing as far as, let me kind of show you, in Sage 100, security is based on role. So on similar to Sage 50, I heard Sage 50 mentioned. So you would define a role. So AP clerk or accounting, kind of, how, specific or general you need to be. And then what I would do is associate permissions with that role. So in this case, sysadmin, I have access to everything, but maybe I want to turn off, maybe sysadmin has no need to be in GL. So I could uncheck GL. So I wouldn't be able to do anything in GL. I'm going to turn that back on, but it does give me the ability to kind of say, that user has access to everything in AP or specific things. And what's nice is, for example, let's say vendors as an example. Maybe vendors have to be approved and only certain users are allowed to create new vendors. So I could even expand this to say, for some people create is checked and some people create is unchecked. So I couldn't, those users could not create a new vendor, only a user with that creation permission would be enabled. So it's a little more granular underneath that. It's not just like a maintenance and you can do anything. You can restrict the types of activities they can do if you need that level of granularity. Questions there?
Okay. Nope.
Now, while I'm here, I do want to point out, let me go over to security events, and I want to drill down to one specific thing. Now, as far as, let me ask you on payroll and employees, how many people are involved in creating the processing payroll?
We have 3 that we would want to have access to it.
Okay, so
primarily there are 2 people, but we kind of have a backup in case something happens to one of us that we're not here.
Okay, now let's say that backup. Now this is what I want to kind of hone in. Allow viewing of and printing and editing of highly sensitive, personally identifiable information, social security numbers. So with it checked, that user can see the full social security number. If it's unchecked, they would see the last four. And that would also apply to like the bank account, and the routing information would be truncated. If it's checked, I see it. If it's unchecked, it hides part of the number. So I don't know if everyone that would help in that process would have the security to see that. But if again, if you have people that maybe you don't want to see the full number, you can turn off, so they would just see the last four. So,
Okay.
yeah, kind of like to mention that because, liability. So you can actually, make it more restrictive. So, it's not just out there. So I'm going to go ahead and now, once I define the role, just to kind of show you, I can create a user, and then the user, I can say what, if you end up with more than one company defined. So essentially my user login, my name, password, and then you can see here's where I can say my role in a specific company or all companies. Now the user code that I assign, that's going to follow me. If I create a new employee, my user code is going to be associated with the creation of that employee. If I make a change, a GL account, a vendor record, when the user's logged in, anything they do, they are tied to that activity. So you can run reports to see, if a change was made, you can, see who made the change, when it was changed, the value before and the value after. So you can enable that level of tracking for changes. Questions there?
No, thank you.
All right. All right. Now I want to talk about the structure of the modules. I'm going to go into AP as an example. So you'll notice I'm kind of in a setup. Library Master is kind of the control module, setting up companies, user security. I'll go into AP as an example. Now the structure here, where you see main, reports, period in, main is going to exist everywhere. Reports is going to exist, check printing, electronic payment, pre-note printings, unique to or specific to AP. I don't need that in GL. So there are some places where you have unique menus that are only available for a specific module because I only need that functionality. But you'll always have a main, you'll always have a report, you'll always have a period in. Now I want to drill into the main folder. Main is where you'll always find specific types of things. Maintenance, inquiry, and data entry are always going to be under the main folder. So if you as a user work in AP sum, GL sum, and payroll sum, you won't have to guess where to go to do data entry. It's always going to be under main. Inquiry, under main. Data entry, under main. So it'll get kind of just, you'll just kind of by intuition know data entry, I go to the main folder. Now there are ways that you can get around. You don't always have to navigate. So again, let's say, as CFO, you're probably doing everything. Some payroll, some AP, some, you may be everywhere. So those things that you find that you use all the time, it's not like you always have to use, AP main and then go to GL reports. Those things that you use all the time. So let's say, as an example, the aged invoice report for AP. I want easy access to that. I want to flag it as a favorite. So all I need to do is right click, and with that right click, notice add to favorites as an option. Now before I make the selection, notice my focus over here is still modules. I want to say add to favorites. Notice that it opened up my favorites menu and dropped AP aged invoice onto my menu. And then you'll notice I have grouped some things together. So I put AR things with AR, AP. So this being an AP report, one of the things I want to do is shorten it. So I'm just going to rename it. So I'm just going to change that from the full, oops, let me get my mouse under control here. I'm going to just make that AP so I can rename that if I need to. I just want to make sure I understand that that's AP. So I'm just going to shorten that, make it APH. So now I've changed the name, and it doesn't affect it back here. It's just on my favorites menu. And then I want to move it with my other AP things. I'm going to put it up here in that grouping. So this allows you to define what you call a favorite. So you have quick access to the things you use all the time. Once it's on the favorites menu, you are able to rename it, and you can organize the menu by inserting either folders or those lines that we call separators. So you can kind of put your personal touch on, I want these things kind of together, these things together, insert folders. Now what's nice is once you have it set up the way you like, if I go back to modules, notice at the top I have favorites. So that will actually show me and have those things that I use all the time at the top waiting for the next time I need it. If you do utilize a folder, anything in the folder, all you have to do is click on that drop down, and the contents of the folder you can select from the drop down box. Any questions there?
No.
All right. So it's kind of, instead of having to navigate the, that menu structure, you can, those things you use all the time are sitting at the top, waiting for the next time you need it. Another thing that we provide to get around the system is we call a visual process flow. So you'll notice in this case, instead of being module specific, it's more general functionality. So what I want to drill into specifically, the one that would be most applicable to you is vendor payments. This is accounts payable. So you see invoice and process payment. So when I choose this, instead of this type of menu, what I will get is a visual menu or kind of a map of the process from start to finish. So entering AP invoices, processing invoices for payment, vendor maintenance, inquiries, reports. It's not just a help screen or a reference. The buttons and the text are linked to that function. So if I need to access a vendor, if I click this button, it will open vendor maintenance for me so I can go in and pull up a vendor. If I needed to do an invoice, I'll click the text this time instead of the button. That will launch AP invoice data entry so I can record an invoice for a vendor. It's nice in that instead of having, everything kind of independently in a separate menu, it is kind of lays the process out in the order that, that of processing, step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, what's nice is it can also be modified. So if you need to have access to something else, you could add a button or you can delete a button. If you need to go out to a website frequently, you can embed a button to launch a URL to go to a website that you may need to reference frequently. Any questions here?
No.
And these can be made favorites as well. So I can make these views a favorite, so they'd be sitting at the top, easy to access. Another thing I'll just kind of point out as far as period end, this is kind of nice too. It's like, again, preparing, what steps, to get AP ready for period end close. You have GL prep, the steps to get GL ready for closing, and then the actual period end closing of GL. So just kind of useful tools that you can utilize, in getting things done. Now, what's nice is you can use any combination, full menus, visual process flows, and shortcuts or favorites. We don't say if you use one, you can't use the other. You can use any combination of getting around the system that you need to get what you need done. Questions?
As far as the closing, like in Sage 50, we just basically tell the software to close the period and it closes everything. Like in this, you would have to go through and close individual modules.
Yes. So the subledgers like AP, AP, payroll would all have their own individual module date, and you can close them independently of GL. A lot of people will close the subledger and keep GL open, and then close GL eventually. But you can post to, as far as when I post something, you have the option of posting to your current period or future periods. So you're not limited to just the current open period. So let's say even if AP is still open, I can still, let's say I'm in, still have AP in August, I could be posting to September. I can have a posting date. So I can still have, AP, as soon as I close August, I can't post, I can post, as long as August hasn't been closed, I can post to August or September. As soon as August is closed, I can post to September or any future period.
Okay.
All right. But it is kind of independent. Each module has its own period end, and then I can close the GL.
Okay.
All right. Now let's see here. There's some things that come automatically with the system. So one of those tools is custom office. So if you need, now where you need to tie, like let's say the project code or the program number, we may not immediately, like out of the box, like, so for example, if an AP invoice, if an expense is tied to one of those programs, I can tell you out of the box, we don't have a place to put that program number, but it doesn't mean we can't add it. So with Custom Office is a tool that comes embedded. You see Custom Office here, user-defined field and table maintenance. So what this tool enables is if we need a place to put information that Sage 100 didn't give us a place for, I can create a custom field and have it become a part of the database. I can add it to screens. So if in the process of recording an accounts payable invoice, that expense is tied to one of those programs, and you need to tie that expense to that specific program, not only could I have the GL account code reference that, but I could have a field where I can specify what program if I needed to. So Custom Office gives me the ability to create a field, from a custom field from scratch, anywhere I need it, AP, GL, even payroll if I need to tie it back to something else, or to create a custom information that you need to account for in your system. Questions?
Okay, I'm curious to see how that's going to work with payroll, because that's what we have in DAC Easy right now. We have these different departments set up, like as a number,
Mm-hmm.
and have a number and a description for our departments that we use when we process payroll. So,
Now, is the department always tied to a specific program? That department is tied to the program, or could that?
yeah, like we have, say for example, department number 7. We know that that is for salary employees in Buchanan office. So, if somebody's payroll, we enter the hours. Like some employees work for different programs in the same pay period, so we might enter hours for a particular employee under like 3 or 4 different department numbers.
Okay. Now I mean, payroll out of the box has, I can define departments. Let me just let me accept I applied an update. I forgot to accept my user license here. So I can set up as many departments as I would need. So you can kind of see office management, field staff, and I can have specific, you can see here, I can have specific GL accounts tied to the department. So out of the box, payroll has, if you're accomplishing the payroll designation of what program by the department, I can have multiple departments defined and specific GL accounts. You can kind of see mains, earnings codes, deduction codes, and security, role-based security based on that department. So is this kind of with departments where you have specific GL accounts that would be posted to based on that?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. Okay. So that's kind of in the payroll side, but we'll get into the payroll. I just want to still kind of get in the higher level, but keep in mind, if you need any custom beyond that, any custom fields, we can define a custom field if you need to, and associate it with anything, and it becomes a part of the database. So kind of keep in mind, if you don't see a place for something, doesn't mean you can't have it. We can just create the field as we call it a user-defined field, or UDF, or it's a custom field. But we can, add fields to GL accounts, vendors, invoices, or even employees if you need to. Now, other things, let's see here. We talked about custom office here. Now let's go in. I just do want to touch on the general ledger. So I'm going to go into general ledger. Now, what I'm going to start with is I'm going to go to setup and structure maintenance. Now, I'm just showing, what I'm showing you now is my demo data. It's not, you don't have to use what you see here. It's flexible. So this is just how my demo data is currently configured. So my GL account is set up in 3 segments. I have my my main or natural account, then a second segment representing a department, and a third segment representing a location. So you can have 1 segment, you can have 2. I'm using 3. It can support up to 32 characters with up to 10 segments. So it can be, very simple, middle of the road, or very complex to meet your needs. Any questions here?
We have that in Sage 50 now, so that's good to know that too.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. I'm going to switch back to a different company here. I'll just know what to expect in this company with their GL accounts. So I'm going to go back again to GL, and now setting up and maintaining. So account maintenance is where I would be able to access an account. So I know you don't use inventory, but I'm going to use an inventory account in my case because let's say I'm looking for a specific account and I know it starts with 115. I can key what I know into the account number field, and if I use this lookup or F2, it's like a begins with filter. It shows me everything beginning with the value that I keyed in. Now, let's say I know the description. I can always use the lookup, and within the lookup, I am able to search on whatever I know, part of the description, the status. Now, what's nice is if I say full text, I don't have to know it's part of the description. It can look in every column of data for a match for what I know. It's not going to be here, but it looks here to find bank. It will look in every column associated with lookup, and in this case, it's going to find me everything that has. In this case, it's all in the description, but I didn't have to know description contains. I just say show me everything where bank is being referenced. The B, A, and K, it looked through every column of data and showed me every match. So, so again, it allows you to use what you know. Again, the lookup begins with, ends with, contains a value. Another thing you can do is you can even start to type the description into the number field. So notice as I get more descriptive, that gets a little more narrow, and then I finally get down to the one specific account that matches that. So I get the description and then the number. Then I can pull that in. So the main tab gives me my group, my category, my type, status, start and end date, cash flow type if applicable. Now, do you use roll-up codes on anything?
Pardon me?
Do you use GL account roll-up codes?
No.
Okay, that's optional. I don't have it enabled. If you did and you need that, you can establish rollup codes, and those would be visible here. I don't have them in my demo data, so if you don't need them, you don't need them. They are optional. Now, if I go to history, what I get is my again beginning balance, debits and credits, ending balance broken out by period for the year. I can look at any year in history. And then I also, this little button gives me the net change instead of the debits and credits. So just give me the total net change of the debits and credits combined, but I can look at each individual one. Variance, now in this case, if I notice I have a little budget button here. So if you need to associate a budget with a GL account, you can actually build that budget within the account itself. So I have my original budget, my revised budget, and I can have an unlimited number of budget revisions. There's some tools here for selecting the budget, changing the budget, calculation wizards, clearing and resetting cells. Now, let's say, again, I'm looking at now, if I want to see the revision, I can change this to the revised budget to compare to the activity. Or if it's an account that doesn't have a budget, maybe I want to look at a prior year activity versus this to see variance. Questions there?
No.
All right. Transactions. This will be all the transactions. Now you can kind of see, and you can drill down to the source journal. Just double click, it takes you down that source journal. Now let's say if transactions, let's say a general journal is entered, you can enter a reversing date. Let's say that something was entered and it did not have, it needs to be reversed, but it didn't have an automatic reversing date. This little magic button right here, notice this is journal reversal. So with this one highlighted and I hit journal reversal, notice it says reversal is complete. Review the entry in general journal entry. So it just created a reversing entry for me automatically. I don't know if that's something that you have to do manually now, but let me go and show you what that just did. So if I go back to general, it's not immediately committed or posted, it's in data entry. So if I come in and use the flashlight entry, here's that entry. So it creates it for me, flags it as a reversal of the original entry, and then on the lines tab, that was 40 lines of data entry that I didn't have to do. Questions?
No, that's good. I know, like on our system now, we can, when we enter a journal entry, we can like indicate at the top if we want it reversed or not, and it'll do that.
No, I can do that too, but this is, if that reversing date.
Forgot to do that.
Exactly. So here's where, like from scratch. So if I go in to do one from scratch, I take my, I'll just say bank reconciliation, next entry. So here's my posting date. Here's where I can specify the reversing date to reverse out next month. So I'm going to make it June in my case, on the 31st, on the 30th. oops, oh, I had the wrong year. So let me just make this 630. I'm used to 2020. Our demo data dates changed from 2020 to 2025, and I'm not used to it. There we go. So it will reverse out. So I can specify the reversing date, but if there was an entry that didn't have that, I need to reverse it, that little button automatically creates it for me. So this is a manual, general journal entry. So posting date, reversing date, I go to lines, pretty straightforward. I will pull in my, my debit account. I'll keep this simple. And then the credit account. Now notice that I don't have the GL account description. In this, if you're familiar with the accounts and don't need to see the description, I can keep it the way it is. If you want that extra validation, all you got to do is drag it up here, and it will remember that you had it laid out this way, and will always present it the way you had it laid out. So it will remember, hey, you want the description up there at the top, and it will always show you account description, debit, credit amount. Make sense?
Okay.
So now in Sage 100, one of the things that you may have to get used to is, again, those entries are not committed or posted. They're in data entry, but they're not committed. So to post them, I will hit the printer icon, and it's my chance to make sure that information is correct. So I'm going to preview, in this case, the general journal entry. And I can validate and make sure that everything's correct. The manual one, the reversing one. If everything's good, it asks me, I can say yes. If I found a mistake, I could say no and go back and make a correction. If everything's good and I do want to post, I'll say yes. Now it's committed. So now if I go back to journal entry and use this flashlight, there's no unposted entries. They have been posted. So questions there?
Nope.
You can also do recurring journals, transaction journals. There's a full slate of reports. Now we can get you, all of these reports that you see here are generated with Crystal reports. We have a PDF booklet that has a sample of all those reports. So, I'll do GL trial balance. These reports can be modified. So if you don't quite like the format, you would like a different, sorting or an additional selection criteria or just the layout in general. I'm going to preview this here real quick. A custom version of this can be generated with your needs, to accommodate your needs. So this is just kind of the canned out of the box version of that trial balance report from GL. But keep in mind, again, it can be, a custom version can be created if you need a custom version. Now, let me ask you this. For being a nonprofit, I have financial reports here. Do you do, what type of financial reports, like I don't know if income statement, but do you need balance sheets and things of that nature?
Yeah, we do like one big balance sheet for the whole company, but we separate our income statement by office and by program and that sort of thing. But we, use those
So
account segments.
How familiar with being an accountant? I think I know the answer to this. I'm going to ask you the question anyway. How familiar with Excel are you?
We use it quite, all the time.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I knew the answer. I'm asking an accountant if they're familiar with Excel. That's kind of a dumb question, but I ask it anyway. Now, what you'll see is I have balance sheet income statements here. These are all Crystal. I'm going to just quickly preview these for you. But what I want to kind of hone in on is a different reporting option that you have. So this is all, again, I can customize this. It does require, it would be customized through Crystal. So I just want to show you kind of, again, I have, in this case, these are, I'm looking at a preview. So it's not some, even though it looks like I can drill, it's a preview of a printed page. I can't drill down. If I need to manipulate this, anytime I preview a report in Sage 100, you can, this little button from the preview. So you preview first, and from the preview, you have this button. You can export. So you can export this to a different format. So if you need to manipulate this, you can export it to a different format and manipulate it. But I'll show you, you can start with Excel. I'm going to show you a different report that is built in Excel versus Crystal. So again, this is just one of the, predefined Crystal report balance sheet. Now, in this case, after this, it's going to run my statement of cash flows. And then again, it will run the income statement. Now what I want to show you is, in addition to the reports here, I'm going to go up to Sage Intelligence Reporting, Report Manager. Now this tool, instead of Crystal Reports, is an Excel-based report writer. So if you know Excel, you already have a leg up. You really just have to know the add-ins versus, learning Excel. So I'm going to go to Financials and Financial Report Designer. I'm going to hit Run, and this will open up a spreadsheet. So this is where I can actually, there's samples I'm using pre-configured, but I can edit them if I need to make changes here, and I'm editing in Excel instead of Crystal. So again, you already know Excel, you're going to have a leg up. You know how to use this tool already. You don't have to learn Crystal. So let me let this run here and let it generate the worksheets for me. So what's nice here, the connection between Sage 100 and Excel is made for you. You don't have to take, let's say, your accounts and dump them into a blank worksheet. It can pull the accounts in. So let me kind of show you. Let me make this bigger. So links to information, FAQs, how-to videos, webcasts, tips and tricks. Now, what I'm going to do, instructions give you some information here as far as different ways. You have two different ways. So you have this BI Tools add-in, which has this menu, and then you have the task pane. Now, what I like is the task pane setting out on top. It's already there. I don't have to go open another menu. So if I want a balance sheet, all I have to do is hit balance sheet and it generates the balance sheet for me. Now, and again, what's nice, I'm going to have to update that fiscal year to get data, but it is already linked to Sage 100. So as soon as I have a valid year here, it will pull in the data from Sage 100. There's my data. Now, because it's Excel, when I previewed that page in Crystal, it was a printed page. Now I'm looking at an Excel worksheet. I have summarized, based on, assets, liability, but I can expand that. And even depending on how the report is set up, right click and even drill down capabilities within that worksheet to get a little further down if I need to. Something I can't do in Crystal. So again, I'm not set up there. Any questions here?
Oh, that's really nice.
So what's nice is, again, let me kind of show you. So I have, the task pane, so balance sheet, income statement, trial balance. Now BI tools, again, this is the same thing. I would get the same balance sheet. So it's just a different way to access it. Again, I just kind of gravitate to this because it's already there. But if you prefer, you can use the BI tools add-in. Another thing that I will point out here that I can do that I can't do here, if there are specific reports that need to be generated and delivered to specific people, this is where you can set up who should get a specific report and use Windows Task Scheduler to generate, on a schedule. So it's generated and delivered to someone, so it's waiting for them. So you could have reports waiting for you in the morning if you, set that up to do so. Now, what's nice here is, let's say that I want to make a change to how this is laid out. Very easy. All I have to do is hit Manage, and from Manage, I can go, pick the one I want to make changes to and hit Edit. And it's very simple. I have my columns, rows, and spacers. So drag and drop, insert rows, insert spacers. And when you get into, let's say, down here, department tree units, those are those the department codes, what should be included or excluded. So I can incorporate those, cities, departments, locations into this, include or exclude, use wildcards. I don't have to account for everything. I can use, basically automatically substitute geo segments based on wildcards instead of having to, build every version with every possible geo account combination. Questions?
Oh,
Another thing I'll point out here, let's say that you want to do your own thing. I'm going to do a new worksheet. There are even tools. So if I go to list, accounts, now note what happens here. This will pull my GL accounts into my worksheet. Now I can, let's say I can get rid of the columns I don't want. So category, all this stuff, I'm going to leave the account in the description. There's even formulas. use. So if you want to do your own thing, we give you some tools to make that a little easier. Now, again, I would still have to do some what rows and columns and range of rows and columns to incorporate, but we do, we give you some tools so that you can do your own thing if you prefer, even incorporating your departments, locations, cities, the GL account structure into that custom report. Questions?
Oh.
Now, this was primarily bought to say, I don't know, being a Sage user, did you ever use FRX for financial reporting?
No, I did not.
Okay. This Sage 100 used to rely on FRX as the financial report writer. It was retired by the publisher, so it kind of forced Sage to go out and find something to replace it. So we found this tool, and we bought the company. So this is a Sage product. Sage owns this product, so we bought the company that produced this, and it's been incorporated as our main financial report writer for all our products now. So so it's not a third party that finger pointing, no, that's Sage 100, no, that it's all Sage. So we'll get it fixed if there's any kind of issue. It's not limited. It was designed for financials, but it's not limited. I can report on accounts payable, expenses, on I can report on anything. If it's in the Sage 100 database, I can report on it through this tool. Questions?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that, again, just kind of keep in mind. Now, again, anytime you see, again, let's say, reports here, those are crystal reports. I can export to Excel, but it's not that direct link. The Sage Intelligence reporting is that, from the ground up built with Excel. All right. Let's see here. Any questions on GL?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Let's see here. Now, let me ask you this on accounts pay. Is there any particular pain point you're having in accounts payable now?
No, I mean it's pretty simple, basic. I could probably use any program to do accounts payable.
Okay.
There's not a lot of problem with that.
All right. So I'm just gonna, I'll just do a quick, the vendor setup. So now I have divisions turned on. So that 01 in the vendor number represents a division. So it's kind of like a department, if you will. So I can have a division assigned to, so I can have different GL accounts for different divisions if you need to, or everything could just be, in one, no divisions at all. Pretty straightforward. On the main tab, primary contact, address, terms code. I don't think you're going to deal with tax schedules, but if you need to, you can have that. Additional is just additional information, the vendor status, the default general ledger account. If you have, do you have 1099 vendors?
Yes, we do.
So I don't have, you enable that. And once you enable it, you would be able to define a, vendor type. So it would enable me to specify that detail. I don't have it enabled. It's just a matter of saying, yes, I need 1099 vendors. And that would enable me to assign the vendor type, the default form, and it will start to accumulate the 1099 history for that vendor. At the end of the year, I can print 1099s, as well as we can integrate with Atrix to do electronic filing of the 1099s as well. Do you ever, let me ask you this, in your AP invoices. Now notice I can't, like, let's say if I get this expense and I need to distribute the cost across, what I can, maybe it's easier to show you. So I could actually create a expense the cost across multiple GL accounts, one AP invoice, but have it distributed to multiple accounts based on a percentage.
Okay, I could use that sometimes. I
Okay.
mean, because sometimes, I have little schedules that I do that in, so it'd be nice to be able to do it here.
Yeah, so you just kind of define, a default expense distribution. It's typically 75% to this and 25% to this, so it all doesn't have to be booked 100% to one account. I can do that. Even if there's an expense defined, I can override that default expense at, well, this time it's 100% to this account, or override and pull in a different account as the the other distribution account if I needed to. But I do have that ability to kind of define this expense is typically broken out into multiple GL accounts. Statistics is just going to be your activity information, your last purchase date, check number, check amount, your average days to pay, overdue, your aging for that vendor. Summary is going to break out period to date, year to date, prior purchases, payments, discount taken, loss. You can look at any period or year in history. History is going to take a year, break it out by period. Purchases, payments, discounts taken, discounts lost, and you can do year-over-year comparisons. Just, this will turn on prior year. Hit invoices, probably going to be one of your more commonly accessed tabs. So at the top, you see all the invoices, invoice number, invoice date, the amount, the balance. Now, what's nice is you can sort on any of these columns. Now, notice down here, when you select one at the top, what you see is all the transactions associated with that specific invoice. So that invoice I had selected, it shows me the invoice as I posted it, and that we applied a payment to that, even the check number, and even we'll go into bank reconciliation to see if that check is cleared yet. So again, as I change the invoice, this invoice was posted, but we actually paid it in 2 payments. So it was, the total invoice amount was 92,000. We paid 2 different checks to break that up. Questions there? So it just kind of gives me, at the top is the full details. Now we'll say here, the zero balance invoices are retained as long as you want them. So maybe you want to see a zero balance invoice for a month after it was paid, maybe 2 months, maybe not at all. Once it's paid, what will happen is during period end, it will see how long has this invoice been in a zero balance. If it exceeds the amount of time you want to see it setting here, it will move it to the invoice history file. So it doesn't get rid of it, doesn't delete or purge it, it just moves it to a history file. The older paid invoices that have been paid longer than you want to see them will be accessible here through invoices inquiry. So these are the older invoices that have been at zero balance for a longer period of time.
Okay.
All right. Now the other tabs, transactions. What I like to, this is a great tab. Let's say that you submitted a payment to a vendor and you had specific remittance information and they ignored you. Never happens. What's nice here is you can sort by for example, the check number, and then you can come down here and see. So it's sorted in a manner. Here was the check number that was generated, and here are the invoices that we intended that to be applied to. So you can have, logical information sorted in a way that you can have that conversation with your vendor. Questions there?
Nope.
All right. Checks is going to be the checks, I can drill into the, check history, what vendor, all the detail there. Now, I believe PO is not needed, correct? So PO, this is like purchase orders. If you have the purchase order, what purchase orders have been issued. I don't think PO was needed. Is that correct?
All right, we don't use those.
Oh, okay, all right. Let me see here. Now, other than that, you can maintain multiple contacts. So I would just set up and maintain any and all contacts for the vendor through contacts, purchase address, remit to address. Again, we talked about paperless delivery. Do you do any ACH payments or is it all paper checks?
We have a few that we do online. Typically, when we do an ACH payment, we go to the vendor's website and do it that way.
Okay. You can generate AP has ACH payments, so instead of generating a paper check, it can generate an ACH file that you can upload to your bank to process those payments. In the event that you do that, what this paperless gives me the ability to say when I generate, so this would be, I can email the vendor to check remittance advice.
Right, okay.
So that's, so that's the vendor setup, now if you have a contract, one thing I want to point out, notice this little button here. If you have a contract with the vendor or something that you need to, a memo or, this is what we call memos. So this would give me, let's say contract. Oops, if I can spell. So I could actually scan and save my contract. Now I would recommend that it's to a shared folder on your server versus, on someone's desktop. So what I could do is then browse out to where I saved the contract. So in the event that I need to refer to that, let me just go up one level here. And I'm just going to find a PDF document. It's not really a contract. So I've linked that. So now note what I want to show you is that's it's yellow. Hey, a memo exists. So should I never ever need to review the contract with this vendor, all I have to do is click this button and it will retrieve that document for me.
Okay.
Now, I will point out too is when I create an invoice, if you want to scan the original invoice coming from the vendor, I can do the same thing on an invoice. So I have the invoice has a memo button. So if you have the PDF of the or a scan of the invoice from that vendor, you can scan and save that and attach it directly to the invoice document. So you can refer to the original document from the vendor if you need to.
Okay.
Question? All right. So any questions on the vendor setup?
No, I don't think so.
All right, let me just show you AP invoice data entry. So let me just do an AP invoice. So again, pretty straightforward. Let me ask you this. Would more than one person be entering invoices at the same time, or is it usually one AP clerk or one AP invoice data entry session at a time?
Usually just one person.
If you had more than one person, I could turn on batches. So when I start this, I could create a batch that I'm entering, then someone else could come in and start their batch, kind of keep it separate. I could enter and post without interfering with someone else. But if it's one by one, it's probably easier. I don't have to define the batch. I would just go in. I'm going to use Airway, which is my landlord. I'm going to key in my invoice number here and then the amount. Now, when I go, now I can say whole payment, separate check. Now, here's where, if I can, pull in and define an expense. Just the way it's set now without that, 100% is going to go to that, to rent. So I can pull my description up here to make sure. So 100% of that's being allocated to that specific jail account. Now, here's where this button, if I had the PDF of the invoice, I could browse out to where I saved it and attach that to the invoice. So this is the memo for the vendor. This is the memo specific to this invoice document.
Okay.
And that would, even when I move it to history, as long as I don't delete that from where it was saved, it will, even when it moves to history, it will still be able to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. So again, Sage 100, it's in data entry, it's not committed, just like in GL. If I go back here to this lookup, that's in data entry, it's not committed yet. I have to run the register. So I'm going to hit the preview button here, or the printer button. So this is the GL posting date, which is different from the document had the invoice date and the due date. Those are document dates. This is the posting date. So this determines what GL period that's allocated to. Now notice that default date was a closed period. As soon as I update this to where the current period is, no problem whatsoever. I'm going to preview. So I can't post to a closed period. Current period is no problem. Future period is no problem. It would give me a little warning, hey, you're about to post to a future period if I had a June, July date. So I can just verify the information is correct. I have divisions turned on, so I get a recap by division. Now, if I found a mistake, I could say no and go back and make a correction. If everything's good, again, I'll say yes. That invoice is posted. And so if I go to that vendor, that invoice is payable on that vendor account and will be on the aged invoice report. Questions?
Nope.
All right. Now, paying. So if I go to, let's say there's different, I can do manual checks. Now I'm going to do check printing. I can always go directly to check printing electronic payment maintenance and create a specific payment for a specific vendor and invoice. I'm going to show you invoice payment selection. What this does is allows me to specify specific dates. I can select by a discount due date, an invoice due date, or both. Or I can do something magical. Let me just do this here real quick. Let me change to reflect where my demo data setting. I'm just going to take my discounts. I'll ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So, so I'm just going to take my discount. So now I could be more specific. So I could enter more details here. So I could enter a specific vendor or range of vendors, or more criteria. But what I can do now is hit select, and based on the dates that I entered and the invoices that are in the system, it's showing me now all the invoices that that fall under the criteria on the previous screen. From here, I could select all, but I may not want to do that. I may want to be more
Right.
careful here, but it gives me the ability, I can see what's due based on those dates, and then I can come in and use shift or control select to say, we're going to do this one and this one and this one. We're going to skip that one. So I can pick the ones that I want to go ahead and pay. And then from there, I'll
Right.
just say okay, and then I hit the printer icon, and it takes me and shows me essentially the vendors, the invoices, check amount by vendor essentially, and then from there it will go into, do you want to print checks? Now checks, I'll just keep with paper checks. If there were ACH payments, I can do both, paper or electronic vendors, or one or the other. So I can say exclude electronic vendors, only do electronic vendors, only do paper checks. So you can only do paper or ACH, one or the other, or both, if you need to. Now the check itself, I can design. The designer would allow me to tell Sage 100, you need to populate the date, the amount, the payee, and fill in the blanks on pre-printed check stock, or I can print everything from the ground up if I need to. If you have that much money to spend on ink. So I'm going to just preview. And again, I'm not going to be able to update because I'm just previewing. I just want to kind of show you. So again, it's just get my remittance details, and then I'm, oops, I mean to close out completely here. So this is kind of more, where I'm filling in the blanks versus, so any questions there?
No.
Any questions on AP in general?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a lot of the features are similar to what we've used in Sage 50 and the old DAC Easy. Years ago we used DAC Easy for AP and GL, and there's some similarities there. Obviously, this is much more advanced, but
I think they generally try.
I like these features a lot.
Okay, so let's looks like we can go ahead and move into payroll now. So I'm going to change company codes to where I have my payroll demo data. So let me start with, now let me ask you this as far as time off buckets. I know Sage we used to have separate sick and vacation, and they just combined it in one PTO bucket. I've had some demos where they do vacation, sick, and personal. What kind of time off buckets do you need to account for?
We actually don't do that in our payroll program. It's kind of done in a different department.
Okay.
So we don't print that on their checks or keep track of it.
Okay. All right. If you need to, you can. So just kind of, if you ever need that. So I'll just kind of show you here. This is just the label. There's 3 buckets that it can account for. So you can just remove those descriptions, so you're not going to do it at all. Now, beyond that, let me ask you this. Other things I just want to touch base on. Earnings codes, pretty straightforward in this case. It is going to be regular, overtime, double time. So regular time, earnings code, description. Now earnings type, regular, standard, pay rate multiplier. Is it subject to workers' comp? Does it need to be applied to box 14? Exclude from ALE. Now again, you're not tracking it. Doesn't need to accrue vacation or sick time. Post to expense by department, which you may definitely need to do if you do that. Now tax rules. There's different ones. So this is regular wages. I'm just going to show you. People ask me, I asked this really obscure question once, and there was taxes on employee contributions to There's a tax roll for everything in here. There was some really obscure thing I'd never heard of, but scrolling through, it's like it was there. So if it's something that you normally a tax rule that would be associated with payroll, more than likely the tax rule is there. So any questions on, pretty straightforward. Again, the regular time pay rate multiple 1 times the pay rate, time and a half for overtime, 1.5 times the pay rate, double time. Any questions there? Pretty straightforward.
No, you can add earnings codes, I assume.
Yeah. So again, I have my demo data, but it's all up to you.
Okay.
So that is something I'm using demo data ones, but you can create them as many as you need and all from scratch, and whatever attributes they need to have. Likewise, you also can have deduction codes, and that can be. Let me ask you this: do you have health plans or 401ks or anything of that nature, that type of deduction?
We do, yes.
Okay, so
we have some insurances are pre-tax, some are post-tax.
So again, when you define the deduction code, here's where the deduction type, standard deduction, employer contribution, pension plan, cafeteria plan. So all those different times, calculation methods, standard amount, standard limit, apply to W-2, box 12 codes. So any of those can be defined and set up specific to that, even down to the frequency of the deduction.
Okay.
Now, let me see again. So again, we kind of touched on this earlier, but we can also define departments. So department maintenance is where I would be defining my, the different departments and associating specific general ledger accounts for specific things. And then, default earnings codes, deduction codes, and even department level security if you need to establish that. Probably won't come into play since you have very few people tracking it. Now, let me ask you this, the time itself, how are you capturing time, or are you capturing time?
Okay, well, we, right now, in the payroll department, we just get spreadsheets from the different locations. They send us the spreadsheets, and it'll list like the employee number, name, and the hours, under like regular hours, overtime, so forth. And we just key in the hours from the spreadsheet that we get, because we don't have I guess with DAC Easy, we don't have a way to import information. So we right now are keying that. So we just basically quickly go through and key the employee number, the department, and the hours.
Okay. Now, when you say look in the spreadsheet, are you keying that directly into payroll data entry from the spreadsheet?
Yes, we are.
Would you like to have an interim step so you can review it before it goes into payroll?
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Because let me show you. So I can definitely, like what you're talking about. So payroll data entry. Let me kind of show you now. Is it an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah.
And is it? Let me ask you this: is it, when it comes to you, is it reviewed and approved by someone in that department or location, or do you have to review and approve it?
No, it's already been through review and approval by the time we get it.
Okay, so let me kind of show you. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but you'll also get Visual Integrator. Visual Integrator is an import-export tool. So instead of you having to look at the spreadsheet and key it into data entry, if it's already been approved and you don't need to review it for any kind of approval information, Visual Integrator is an import-export tool. So what I could do is say build an import job. I'm going to just say payroll. And then I'm going to, in this case now, I'm going to point to payroll data entry. So I'm going to be looking for, let me see here. It's going to be this one. And then what I can do is I'm going to tell the import job that I'm going to import from Excel. So what I'm going to do is change this to Excel. And then the key thing here is on the data tab, I'm telling it where to find the information, where to find the employee number, the hours. So I'm telling Sage 100, this is where you'll find this information from that spreadsheet. The employee is in this column for this length. The hours worked, the date worked, all that information can be pulled from that spreadsheet. So instead of you having to spend time to review the spreadsheet and key it in manually, we can have Sage 100 scan the spreadsheet and pull the information in a payroll data entry for you.
Okay,
So
that's
save
really
that
good.
save that data entry step. Now, what I was talking about is instead of, I can go directly to payroll data entry, under payroll, time track, this is kind of like a time card program. So I could have employees punch in and out, but I don't have to do that. I could, instead of importing directly to payroll data entry, I could import to time track entry. So that would give me, so I would be populating employees. Let me see if I got anything in. I don't have anything in here. So I could be importing into here with the date, the hours, and that it was approved, um, and maybe the project or program, or again, the department's a part of that, which may be tying that. So it would give me an interim. So I could import, and then why I kind of suggest this is this could be done multiple times or as many, so it'd be could accumulating data before payroll. So it doesn't have to wait just to payroll. I could be doing this daily or a couple times a week to get caught up and not wait until payroll to do that. Make sense?
Okay, well, that may be something that we could use later. There's some changes coming up maybe in the future, so but I don't think we would use it right now, but
Okay.
it may be useful down the road.
So I just give you a place, instead of going directly to payroll, I could import to time track entry. And what's nice is, like, see, you can run reports or maybe approaching overtime. So you can, it's in the system before payroll. Now, when you get to payroll, so again, I can import directly to payroll entry. Let me kind of show you what, if I use that, let me get it here. So I'm going to go payroll data entry. So what I need to do now is, let me say no here. Oops, I meant to say yes. Here, I'm going to say yes. So if you have that information in that interim, in that holding module in time track, I can use this menu to pull them into payroll. So I can be, accumulating the time, and then when I'm ready to do payroll, I would pull it into payroll by using this to pull it, to select and pull entries that have been captured here into payroll. Make sense? If you have
Yeah.
in that, so I don't have to rekey it. It's been pulled in there, and then I'm importing it from there into here through the selection screen. Now, if in the event, let's say that I'm going to start from scratch here. Um, let's get rid of what I had already. So if I'm starting from scratch, so again, instead of I'm going to show you manual, or I'm going to use auto pay, but you're going to use, we could import this instead of, let me, we'll do, oops, let me, starting date. I got to get this right. We'll start on the 6th. And then let me get to May. Again, my demo data's got me confused here. So I'm going to go to 3rd. So again, I had to change my date. Sorry about that. So my period starting date, period ending date, the check date. Now I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use, now what you would do is import from those spreadsheets into payroll data entry. I'm going to populate using AutoPay, just assuming all my employees work 40 hours in the week. So now when I come in, so you would be the same for you. You would have imported those, and when you come in, the entries would be populated from the import. I did it through AutoPay. I'm just assuming everybody worked 40 hours a week. So you can kind of see on the header, I have the days worked, the weeks worked, print check, take deductions, direct, if they have direct deposit lines. So again, the earnings code, departments, labor code. So again, if the import file had this distributed across multiple departments, it would do that automatically. So I could change this and have it. It doesn't have to all be, on one earnings code in one department. I could have a second line, X number of hours, a different earnings code for a different department. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, now
But
again,
we
so I
were,
go ahead.
could you show us what the screen would look like if we were actually going to do the manual entry?
So this would be, so if I was doing manual entry, it would just be, you would be coming in and saying earnings code, earnings line, earnings code, what earnings code, the rate, the hours. So you'd be doing all these fields manually.
So rather than mousing through it, could you enter through it?
Oh yeah. So again, if I come down, so now I key in the amount. Now you may have to, like the codes, if you know the code, you can type it in. So for example, instead of, if I, one, standard regular time or double. So if you know the code, you can always key it in. You'd have to use the mouse to do a lookup, but again, I can always just enter. Anything that you don't need, like basis amount, if that's not something I'm worried about, I can get it out of the way. If I want to see the description on the earnings code, I can have that up there, and then I can make that a little smaller. So you can basically say which fields you want to see in data entry, which fields you don't, make them bigger, smaller, and again, maybe you do want the date worked. So you can, again, you just drag and drop. If you need it up there and need to see that, you can drag it up there and have that be a part of the data entry. If it's not, get rid of it, bring it down to the lower. It will remember the way you have it laid out. So if you move things around, the next time you open it up, it will be the way you laid it out the last time.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Now the next step, if I go to accept, so again, this was David here, so I can go, so I can go, one by one and go through all those employees, make sure it's all correct. Now, when I'm ready, if I hit the printer icon, it will start, notice this is kind of it will go kind of the, I was in payroll data entry, it goes kind of to the next step, payroll tax calculations. Now, taxes, it will tell me, let me kind of show you, the system will tell you when tax table updates are available. So it will pop up a message on the screen and say, hey, a new tax table update's available. Do you want to download? You can also define, notice the service notification maintenance. This is where you can specify when there is an update to the tax table to notify you. So you get an email as well to say a new tax table update is available for download.
Great.
Go back here. So now it's going into, again, kind of the next step, the payroll audit report. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. So this is kind of your opportunity to see what kind of what the check run's going to look like. Employee earnings codes, all the rates, the total amount of the check, any deductions will all be listed here. And then I can go through, so that's where we were at. So then I can run the earnings register, the time off register, deduction register. So all those things can be run. Once I get through all those things, then I can get to, I'll just go to check printing. So again, I'll run through those things, check printing. Do you have direct deposit for employees?
Yes, and I was going to ask, like we have employees that, have some of their check deposited to a savings account, to a Christmas Club account, to their regular checking. So some people have like up to three direct deposit accounts. Is that a problem?
I don't, let me just I don't think so. Let me just double check with the implementation team. Has that ever been a problem? I believe that's something, let me just kind of show you. I believe you can say multiple. So, and yeah, so you can see it's either an amount or a percentage to distribute across multiple accounts.
Okay.
Is it a problem to run people that have some of our employees elect to have a paper check and some elect direct deposit. Can you run those all those together?
Yeah. So notice again, this employee's flagged as direct deposit. So when I get back, notice, and I just want to kind of point out too is on. I don't know if I really went it. We have paperless office too. So let me kind of show you. So let me get it into David Emerson. So he's set for direct deposit. So I have this drop down box where I specify bank account, routing, description, and it will also, as far as the pre-note, to verify the pre-note had been sent and approved. Now I also have paperless, so I can have his, direct deposit stub emailed to him. So I can set that up. So when that's generated, I can email him this direct deposit stub as well. So, kind of keep that in mind. I can set that up. So in one check run, let me get back down to, let me see if I have the screen open. So notice that it's designed direct deposit stub. So in one check run, when I hit print, I can be doing my paper checks, direct deposit stubs. And now for direct deposit, it will generate the ACH or NACHA file that you can then upload to the bank.
Okay.
I'm going to preview. I'm not going to be able to update because I'm not physically printing. There's a safety mechanism. I can't update unless I actually print the checks. But again, this is just, kind of a breakdown, pretty standard here.
Okay.
And then again, I can't update, but I can have, so notice that there is a direct deposit. So here's, again, pre-notes and stuff, direct deposit, generate the pre-note ACH files, direct deposit maintenance. So you would basically map to the requirements of your financial institution. It would generate that file and then you can upload it to them.
Okay.
Any questions?
I don't think so.
Now,
It looks really similar to what we're doing in DAC Easy, honestly. I mean, obviously there's a lot more features, but it's the same basic idea, which is good to see.
And you have, of course, what is the 941? I think that's the report everyone asked about. Yes, they're 941s. And I don't know, are you using Atrix now? So Atrix e-filing. So for the end of the year.
We don't use it on the quarterly. We do our reports. I just do the reports, but at the end of the year, we use Atrix for W-2s and 1095s.
Okay. Same thing here as far as we use them. We used to try to maintain the reports. So for report printing, we still use Atrix to generate the report so they can keep up with the changes. They're better at keeping up with the changes to the federal forms. So we use them to generate the reports for us. But as far as filing, they are the mechanism that we, for e-file, W-2s and et cetera. So that can all be filed through Atrix.
Do you know if, like the state forms, like for example, we've got this state unemployment report that you have to list like every employee that worked in that quarter. Do they take care of that type of reporting also?
I don't know if let me see, was it West Virginia? Is that the right state?
Yeah.
So these looks like what's specific to West Virginia. I don't know if that, and maybe a
Yeah, it
customer.
looks like the quarterly contribution report. Yeah. Okay.
No. So again, I just changed from federal to state, pick the state, and then these were the available.
So then we could e-file that report, is that what you're telling me?
You'd have to have Atrix. So you would have to have the subscription to Atrix to enable e-filing. I'm sure that they would do state as well as federal, but I would double check, but that would be dependent on an Atrix.
Okay.
And I think I sent you that link, Anita, for Atrix a little while back.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay. I'll resend it just in case.
Let's see here. And again, as far as standard reporting, again, there's a whole, whole set of standard reports. We actually have report booklets that have samples. So if you need those, let Brian know. We should have a PDF booklet that has a sample of all those standard reports.
Yeah, I sent that over.
Hey,
So
Johnny, where
Yep.
do you get those PDF booklets from?
Oh, just go into the system. Just go into any report by module. So it's module by module. Go into help.
Yep.
And then what you'll see is when you go about to the full help to about the window, you'll see when it opens up report sample, and that's the whole booklet for that
Okay.
module.
Gotcha.
So it's module by module. Just go into any report, any module's reports, pick any one, go into help, and the report sample is all it's the PDF for the entire, all the reports for that entire module.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions?
Well, okay, refresh my memory, maybe Brian, as
Mhm.
far as, like right now we have our Sage 50 on a server that is hosted by Summit Hosting.
Okay.
Would it, Sage 100, is it still the same type of situation with that, or does Sage offer hosting?
We don't offer hosting, but Summit Hosting is one of our partners too. They host all of our products. So we can reach out to them and find out what it would cost you to host 100 there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we have several hosting options, and like Brian mentioned, Summit is one of the go-to hosting providers, but there are other hosting providers out there, so there are options available. But Summit is one of our go-to partners.
Okay, we've had, of course, we don't have our payroll on there right now. We just have payroll on a computer here at the office, but we've had a lot of time with Summit Hosting, and I know that I've thought in the past that, you know, if we had payroll on that server, it would have been a big problem because there was like quite a bit of downtime.
Yeah, they had some bad outages. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So if there was another hosting company that maybe had more uptime, we'd be interested to know that.
Yeah, we've got again, Brian. Pardon me for interrupting, but I know that we've got several customers on some different platforms other than Summit Hosting, and they're pretty pleased with it.
Okay, I'd like some information on that if I could get it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also, I just have to ask this question: the Sage 100 going to be around for a long, long time?
Fair question. James, you want to take that one?
It's fair. Yeah. Again, as Brian alluded to in the introduction, I've been affiliated with the Sage 100 product actually before it was even called Sage 100. Way back as a user, back in my accounting days, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I came to work at Sage, and that's where I met Johnny back in pre-2000. We worked together in tech support. Sage 100 Mass 90 has always been the flagship product. It's always been the bread and butter product of Sage, even though they've come out with some new innovative products that do some things that Sage 100 doesn't particularly do. In my personal opinion, I don't think Sage can ever get away from Sage 100. It's just got a long, successful history. It's got a humongous existing customer base. So I just don't see it ever going away. Johnny, you might have more inside information, but that's my personal perspective.
Yeah, I see continued investment. So it's not like, well, you know, it's been around so long, they're continuing to put money into new features and trying to link to more and more, like, you know, Office 365 and making it more, let's say it's hybrid, more cloud, you know, still on premise, but making it more and more cloud friendly, you know, linking it to more things. So they're continuing to invest and spend money on improving it versus like, oh, you know, we're just coasting, we're just going to keep it as is and kind of coast where we're at. There's I have access to what they call the road ahead, you know, upcoming features. So they're continuing to invest in the product.
Okay. Did you say that this used to be Mass 90?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's accounting firm I worked at. That was the software that they used.
Yeah, same
Yep.
product, just rebranded. And
Yep.
it's been around for, I think, was it now 32 plus years. So it's a flagship that's built for, distributors and manufacturers. We have like 40,000 plus active clients still using it. And there's probably thousands that still have the older versions that do not have a subscription. I don't know what that number is. But yeah, and then a lot of customers like yourselves who, rely on it just for financials. So yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Okay, good. I just need it to be around for like 15 more years.
Me too, Anita. Then whatever.
Katie says 20 years.
Well,
She's a little younger than me.
any more questions for Johnny?
I don't think so. No, that's it. I'm really, really happy with what I'm seeing.
And then James, did you have any questions? James is going to put together the budgetary estimate or the scope of work, if you will, on what it's going to take to implement this for you all. Is there any questions you might want to throw out, James?
No, not at this time. Well, one thing in the discovery notes, I did see that that you guys said you do intercompany transactions. Is that something that you do frequently, or you guys make way by way of journal entry? Or how do you perform your intercompany transactions?
Well, we have two companies, but one of the companies right now is basically idle. So we aren't even doing any intercompany transactions right now, but next year sometime, there is the potential for that company to become more active. And we might have, payroll and everything in that company, but right now we don't.
Okay.
So the intercompany stuff right now doesn't really apply.
Okay, excellent. Okay. And then the last question that I might want to ask is, do you guys do anything with fixed assets? Do you have any fixed asset tracking software, or do you have a need for tracking fixed assets? Your furniture, equipment, things like that.
Oh, fixed assets. I couldn't hear you there. Fixed assets, like right now we have, we do have a program that we use to do depreciation, which we could continue to use, or, we could do something. I mean, if it's a part of Sage 100 and I could put it in there, that'd be great too.
Well, Sage does have an application that specifically works to track the depreciation. Your acquisition of your fixed assets. The service, in service, the useful life, all that good stuff. So it's a module called FAS. So Brian can get you information on that product.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right now we have our assets actually in like an old version of DAC Easy, and I just use that to run depreciation reports.
Okay. And other than that, any data that you're looking to, existing data that you're looking to bring into Sage 100?
I was going to ask, if we could import our chart of accounts from Sage to Sage 100. Could import our employee information. I'd be interested to know how that would all work.
Yeah. Johnny mentioned the tool called Visual Integrator. VI is what we call it. That's the tool that we use to import, to bring information into or export information out of Sage 100. So what we would do is we'd get your data from your Sage 50 system, and specifically talking your master file, your list of customers, list of vendors, your chart of accounts. We create an import job, and then we bring that information into Sage 100. But if we were talking historical data, like detailed general ledger transactions, things like that, then it's a little bit more of a task. We can certainly do it, but then again, we're looking at a higher budget for the historical information. So what we recommend is bringing over the master file information if you have your legacy system still available where you can reference historical information. Otherwise, again, we can talk about bringing over maybe 1 year of data or whatever your needs are in your new system. So we can certainly discuss what that may be.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'd probably not bring over the historical data, but try to bring over, chart of accounts, employees, that sort of thing.
Sure. Okay. Master file, not a problem.
Yeah, most customers trying to be mindful.
Are there options for like the implementation for like me to do some of the work, or I mean, how is that done?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's an absolute option of which lends to actually decreasing the overall cost of the professional services. So yeah, whatever you feel that your skill set is strong enough in that you can carry the entire load or the bulk of that load. Absolutely, we can chunk that bit of work off to you. If it's data entry, if you feel comfortable with cleansing data and getting it into an Excel spreadsheet so that we can import it. All that kind of stuff can certainly reduce the overall cost of the implementation.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd like to do as much of that as I can.
Sure. What we'll do, and I see that Johnny has fired up the fixed asset application, so I'll let him speak to that. But what we'll do is we'll put together a high-level professional services estimate. Then we'll have what we call a scoping call. We'll go and review the detailed line items on the estimate, and then that's where you can speak to, what, we can take on that bit of work. So let's take that off of the estimate. We'll take on that responsibility, so on and so forth. So we'll chisel down to where we feel is a comfortable number. You guys do whatever bit of work you want to take on, and we'll take on the remainder.
Okay.
Now, in the fixed assets, I launched it. So I launch it. It's a separate program, but I can launch it from within Sage 100. Now, so, I can pull up each asset. So now in this case, these GL accounts are Sage 100 accounts. And you can have 7 tax books per asset. So tax, internal state, AMT, ACE, and 2 custom ones. Each one can have its own individual depreciation method. Now I can do transfers, disposals. Now one thing, there's 2 ways. Integration points. If you buy a new asset, when you record the invoice, if the GL account on the line is an asset account, it enables me to pick a template. So when I record the purchase by entering an AP invoice, if I pick an asset template on that AP line, it will create the asset here for me. So it will basically import it from Sage 100 when I record the purchase of a new asset. Now, probably the more time-saving thing is when I go to when I run depreciation, so I can depreciate the assets in fixed assets, by a group or all, and then what will happen is it will calculate the depreciation. I can leave here. I'm not going to get all the way through this because I don't have my dates quite right. Let me just cancel out of here. But it will calculate the depreciation. I get out of here. I can come back to Sage 100, go to period end. It will connect to fixed assets, get the calculated depreciation, and create the GL entries for you.
Okay, great. Okay.
And that program, like Johnny mentioned, Anita, is a separate program. I don't sell it. So what I'll do, I'll reach out to one of my counterparts and have them give you a call. So that way they can quote that for you.
But you can see it's directly accessed, and it's a separate program. But again, when I click this button, it launches it. So I don't have to, go to 2 different programs. I can get to it from right inside Sage 100.
Okay. All right. I don't think I have any other questions at this time. It looks like it would work great for us.
Good deal.
And I need to, I'll need to get the information together and get it to the executive director so that she will make the final decision. I just need to convince her it's the right way to go.
Okay. James will put together the budgetary estimate and then get it to me. Once I get that, we can I'll get it to you, and then we can schedule a scoping call, so we can go over everything.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nothing on my side.
All right, very good. And then I'll send you this recording as well, Anita. Let me go through and edit it and get it published, and then I'll send it your way.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.